Okay, hello. Welcome back to another episode of The Current Conservative. We're excited to be back in the studio, chatting it up again about all the craziness in politics that's going on, all things current conservative.
Yeah.
So,
Hey guys. Total mayhem happening in the world
mass
today,
chaos.
but just
we're just
just a
getting
little
by,
encouragement.
Just gotta laugh
um
about certain things, otherwise you will cry.
Comedic relief. We're here just
Yeah.
to make you laugh.
Yeah, right. You'll learn
I think
something and you'll laugh a lot.
yeah, exactly. I definitely think we should start with Trump's town hall last night on
I would agree.
CNN. And the fact that, I mean, there's just so much about it that I love that happened during the town hall, but also the aftermath and the conversation that followed the town hall, particularly on leftist media and, journalists and such. Total meltdown and freak out
Liberal heads
over
exploding.
everything that he said. There's just so much to talk about. But yeah, I think it was hilarious. I can't get the clip out of my head when he's talking about her cat. She has a cat called Vagina.
A dog or cat
Like,
named Vagina. Just the
I
way he
think,
says things like kills me. He's
oh,
so
it's the
freaking
best.
entertaining. I don't know how anyone could not like him. He says what everyone's thinking. It's
Yeah.
so funny.
Well, I mean, like, okay, here's my whole thing on like the Jean Carroll girl who's suing him now. Listen, he walked down the elevator in 2015, and you've been holding on to this story for the last 8 years after everything.
Mhm.
I mean, they have thrown everything at this man. I mean,
In the vault, sister.
yeah, two impeachments, the Russia hoax, the PP hoax, whatever. And then we got, a rape allegation. And then I love how this originally started out as a rape, like he raped her, and then now it's just sexual assault. Like, what is it?
Right.
She can't even say what year it happened. And then also, let's just consider the fact that his wife is freaking Melania, and his former wife was Marla, who's also a gorgeous, tall blonde. Melania is
Mhm.
a gorgeous model. Um, and I just
And
don't really think
Ivana.
that, yeah, oh yeah, and Ivana. And I just don't really think that Trump's gonna need
She was a
to go after
prospect.
this hack, right? And
Yeah,
she's
he even
20.
said, he goes, well, if she was presented to me, it wouldn't be my first choice.
It's not my type.
Which,
She's
like,
not
I'm
my
like,
type.
she's not my type. Everybody's
He's
got a
got
type.
he's got a type.
She ain't no model. That's all I'm saying. Which I
Like,
just love because he's so honest, but it's like classy. Like he's
yeah.
classily saying,
Yes.
she not that cute, okay?
No, no, we're not gonna do that. We're
She's
not
also
doing that.
insane. Like, did you see these clips of her in front of her house being like, I painted my rocks because there was a river there? Like talking
No.
crazy. Like literally have to
No.
go on. Yeah, it's insane. She's like outside of her house. It like looks like a dungeon cabin. It's like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
And then she was doing an interview on like CNN or whatever. I think it was like Anderson Cooper or something. I could be totally wrong. But he's like, okay. Like listening to her and she's like, you're really a nice person. And he's like, we're gonna go to a commercial break. I'll see you on the other end.
Like,
Literally.
gotta get myself out
Gotta
of
get
this
out.
situation.
SOS. Help, sister. Help
Eject.
the
Boom.
system. Like
Oh,
get the hook her off the stage. That's what I wanted to do to Caitlin Collins last night. What a freaking witch. I
she
wanted
was
to smack some sense into her.
a little bit of a crazy person. I mean, I go lightly when I say people are psychopaths, but she was
No, she's
teetering
certifiable.
on on that boundary. And I also
She
love
was an
how people.
entertainment reporter at the Daily Caller
I saw
before
that.
she
I was
worked at
just about
CNN.
to say that. But I'm like, okay, so I was on Twitter after, and I actually kept
Mhm.
watching like the town hall conversation that they were having with Anderson
Mhm.
Cooper and I don't know the whole panel, and then
Mhm.
also Byron
Yeah,
Daniels,
Donald's.
Donalds. Okay,
Yeah,
he was on there and he held his
amazing.
ground. He did so well.
So great.
But I continue to, be on Twitter and stuff. That's where I kind of get like I like to see what the left is talking about. And they were all just up in arms that CNN would give Trump a platform, and even people were
Right.
calling to, penalize CNN for allowing them to give Trump this platform, and that never again he should be able to talk to an audience like this because you mad, bro. You're mad that the whole entire audience was clapping and cheering for him and loved everything that he had to say,
And giving him a
right?
standing ovation because
Yeah.
they wanted to hear about real issues. They wanted to hear what his stances are, what his beliefs are, what his goals are, what his action items are going to be if he's president again, which
Mhm.
I just love that she had to keep calling him Mr. President. I was like, "You're my president still."
Yeah.
Um, and
And
that's what people
then
wanna hear. They don't care anymore. I mean, we've already moved past 2020. It's like and
yeah.
then he calling every Trump calling everybody, only a stupid person thinks that 2020 wasn't rigged,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
I loved particularly. But it's just like nobody, I don't want to say nobody cares about that because we care that because
Yeah.
we think it was stolen. But that's all she wanted to talk about. She kept trying to refer or redirect the conversation. And even in that panel, like some of the clips I saw, there, Byron Donalds is going on about like the inflation and all of these things that are affecting Americans in real time. And one of the one of the panelists, she's like, "Oh, and, I'm a Republican voter. I'm a Republican voter. May I ask you a question? May I ask you a question?" He's like, "Go ahead." And she's like, "So do you think the election was stolen?" Like, like she just like it's like she just ignores everything else and goes back to that question.
Yeah, the whole I think that she was also trying to, like, debate him, which you're not supposed to
Yeah.
do, and yeah, and then after I kept watching the town hall, the tone was on CNN that this is the same Trump from 2016,
Mhm.
nothing's changed. If you want, if you're still stuck in the past, then you're gonna be the ones to vote for him, but if you want something different, why not consider other Republican candidates like Ron DeSantis? And, they were, like, peddling that narrative, and they were just really cracking down on him and just how,
How
you
he
know
spoke, yeah.
yeah, how he spoke
Well,
and
that's all they
presented
have.
himself and
That's
yeah.
literally all they have because they know he speaks truth when it comes
Mhm.
to actual issues that people care about.
Yeah,
Because he's
yeah.
willing to talk about things that all these other politicians don't talk
Don't.
about, and I really don't actually like when people are like, "Well, he's a politician now too, and he's like everybody else," and I'm like, "That's why people like him is because he's not like everybody else." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he may be playing a certain game, he may be, speaking a certain way to, get his point across, and there are, of course, optics, but walking into a lion's den, into a hornet's nest,
Mhm.
knowing the kind of response that he's going to get, especially from the interviewer who was basically his opponent in a debate,
Right.
he brought receipts. He
Uh,
literally
when
brought the
he pulled
paper
that
out.
out, I was like, "This is an iconic moment in history," when
Legendary.
he was just like, "Hold on, I gotta pull it out. I gotta pull it out." And I just was like, "Yes." But,
It's
yeah, I
amazing.
mean, he laid it straight and he read verbatim what he had originally said on January 6th because
Mhm.
they also, I noticed on CNN, I if anyone can tell, I do not watch CNN regularly, so I just can't handle it. But, they were talking about, how he, incited violence and all of that stuff on January 6th, and they they totally twist what he
Mhm.
says, and they leave
Mhm.
out points, and they leave out, um those talking points that he made, like, that he called for peace and that
Mhm.
they need to respect security and all of that, and then when he was trying to push back against how Nancy Pelosi didn't allow the Capitol Police to testify during the January
Yeah.
6th trials, they left all that out, of course, and so they try to
Of
always pin
course.
it back on him, and he
They
does
just straight up lie.
yeah, they
They
lie.
just they literally lie, like, even Caitlin Collins was like, "Oh, she's not in charge of the cap." Yes, she is, that's
Yeah.
literally her part of her job or part of her duties as
Yes.
Speaker of the House is to
Yeah.
be in charge of
And
the Capitol Police.
yeah, Speaker of the House. Yep.
Mhm.
100%.
And there were other things too that I you just can't think of at the top of my head, but that she just blatantly said lies about, and it's like,
Mhm.
what you're saying is not true. That's the only point that I really hope that Trump, refines moving forward is like
Mhm.
really catching them in the lie and
Mm.
like cutting straight to what the actual truth is in that moment, because I feel like, well,
Yeah.
it's hard when someone's literally attacking you. It's like,
Yeah.
like you're trying to like he's trying to look good, he's trying to say the right thing and not like come out, angry or rude. And that was the thing, he has to tread lightly, you know what I mean? Like I think he did exactly what he needed to do in that sense, which is let her dig her own grave and show how pathetic and just despicable her the way she acted was, the what she said. She's like, well, that's what I wanted, you know what I mean? Like giving
Mhm.
him this condescending tone. So I think in that sense, like he did an impeccable job of letting her dig her own grave. But
Yeah.
I just it's hard. I mean, like I'm saying it's hard. I know, Trump, but like you should
Yeah.
really try to pinpoint how exactly what she's saying or what anybody is saying is a lie, and point out
Mhm.
what that truth is. Like, no, the Speaker of the House is in charge of the Capitol Police. And I mean, he showed in the receipts that he did, say on the 4th and the 5th, like followed up about, do you need these soldiers, blah, blah, blah. So, you know what? I just think that it really showed how strong he is, how
Mhm.
presidential he is, how sharp he is.
Mhm.
And I mean, we all I mean, I don't think you weren't a Trump voter in 2016, but for me, I
Mm-mm.
was like we watched the debates, like it was such an epic time in history, and I
Yeah.
think that this is like he's just blowing himself out of the water because of how sharp and specific and eloquent he is now as opposed
Mhm.
to then. Even then he was great, but he
Yeah.
did have moments where he let his ego and his like, everybody does that. So
Yeah.
I think it was really great.
Yeah. During the 2016 debates with Hillary, I was never like pro Hillary in the 2016. I was just neutral, I guess. And it wasn't like I like had disdain for Trump either. It was just
Mhm.
like, I don't know. Like I was just again reading everything that Twitter was telling me, and then back in the day that was
Right.
run by Jack Dorsey, etc. Um, and so, yeah, watching the debates were actually very satisfying to me because I'm just like anything to make Hillary squeal is medicine to my bones. So,
Oh
so I
my
was like, yeah,
gosh.
let's go
Because
for
she'd
it
be in jail.
because she'd be in jail. And I just, yeah, I remember watching all that and I was like, oh my gosh, I think that he's going to win. Like I
Win.
started to realize, but anyway, that was a good
Yeah.
time. Also, I just want to also
Yeah.
end with this. Like, I think that Trump, like, I saw online a lot of people were arguing. Conservatives were talking about, like, why is Trump doing this? Like, why did he turn
Yeah.
down the presidential debate at the Reagan Center? And then he's, going on CNN. I think it was all set up. Like, it actually kind of forced them to talk about this
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
bring all of these topics up. And yeah, like from the get-go, I was like, "Oh, I see exactly what he did." He
Mhm.
went into their territory
Mhm.
to basically,
Outshine them. Yep.
yeah, and I really, it's in my Instagram bio right now, but the quote from Reagan, "If you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat." And that's just
Yeah.
like that's my mojo right now.
I love it.
Um
Make them
is
feel the heat.
like you just got to pack some heat when you're talking to the
Yeah.
left, and truth is
Oh, and
on
he
our
did.
side. Yeah,
Yeah.
truth is on our side. So,
Yeah.
we're going
And
to be
I mean,
good.
you can see Dan Bongino was saying like the gauge of how great he did is
Mhm.
how many liberal heads are exploding. Like if they're
Yeah.
just absolutely jumping off the deep end and like
Yeah.
trying to like, downplay it and like show how horrible he did and the horrible things he said, then he did a good job. So and I
Yeah.
think that's just so accurate because if they don't like something that he does, if anything he does is like very basic or whatever, they just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So I think it was a disaster for them. I don't
Mhm.
even understand like who agreed to this or like how this came about because
Yeah.
I can see why he said yes, totally agree with you, but I'm more confused like why they even offered this up as a possibility. Like where did this come from? I'm so
Right.
curious. I just love to know like behind the scenes because there's just so much we don't know behind the scenes, especially like in the press and in the media.
Yeah.
You don't know what kind of backdoor deals they're making, and especially with Fox, firing
Mhm.
Tucker, my dad has been saying that he really thinks that he has this theory that Fox is going to be the new CNN and CNN's going to be like going Republican or something. I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't see how
Oh.
how that's going to happen because they have so many, like all of literally every host that they have is insane. Like for you to be peddling
Liberal.
so many lies and attacking someone,
Mhm.
like when Byron Donalds was on there and they're just attacking him, not even letting him speak the way Caitlin Collins did, you have to be actually insane. Like,
Yeah.
how can you even do that and like feel
Yeah.
right with yourself? You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, geez, like give a man a break.
Right. I mean, yeah, back to the Byron Donalds thing, like, they were on, like, this panel, so, like, picture it, it's like a half circle, and then I think they started on, like, the opposite end, and then Byron was on the
Hmm.
other end, and
Okay.
everyone went through and, like, spent, probably a minute or 2 each talking about just, like, a quick recap, points that stood out to them. The entire time, Byron's just sitting there, letting them just spew their liberal hatred and just watch their heads explode, and
Poison.
then
Yep.
yeah, and then, like, literally, it's his time to talk, and everyone starts interrupting him and won't even let him get, like, a single sentence out, and that just paints a perfect picture of
Yeah.
what it is to have a conservative perspective and opinion in this world. It's like we are constantly being told to sit down, be quiet, shut up, and they wanna censor us, censor our point of view, and
Yep.
censor our love of freedom and actual freedom of speech and just the things that Trump stands for, which is American sovereignty. I would definitely say that he's certainly nationalistic, and I'm happy to be considered a nationalist. And I love my country, and that's what nationalism means, is that you want to do things that are best for your country. And if everyone had that mindset, we wouldn't really be in so many icky positions that we find ourselves in. To transition into our next topic, perfect example,
Hmm.
the border chaos and
Right.
Title 42 ending today. And some of you might know that Title 42 wasn't a permanent fix, and it was a policy that Trump signed in um, alongside the COVID-19 emergency. So a couple weeks ago, when Biden ended the emergency, the national
It ended
emergency,
Title
it
42.
ended Title 42. And so today, May 11th, is the end of Title 42, which basically means that people can just flow on in.
Walk on in.
But did you see yesterday that the
Yeah.
Biden administration last minute signed another Trump era policy, which basically, I don't know if there's a name for it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, if immigrants want to come into our country, if they haven't yet filed asylum in another country, like, you know, uh,
Venezuela,
another
Guatemala.
Central American, yeah, Nicaragua, Guatemala, whatever. If they haven't filed asylum yet in that country and then they come here, they're going to be denied. So that might
Interesting.
be a little, like, that might bring a little bit of relief, I guess.
If you can
And at
call it
least we
that.
have, their contact information, you know, or like their name at least, like in a file somewhere,
Oh my gosh.
rather than just like, come on in, welcome. What can we get you? A driver's license, a bank account, a house,
Social
food,
security number?
free education.
Yeah,
Come
whatever.
on in.
You know what?
Here's
It's all
some
right. Just walk along. See you
here's
next
some
time.
brisket.
Hot meal?
But honestly, like, what are your thoughts on all this?
What are my thoughts? Where do I start? I mean, oh gosh, the thing that really drives me insane is Mayorkas was up there on the podium the other day talking about, one of the reporters asked him about Title 42, and he's like, "We're a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of laws." I'm like,
I love when they pull that out. You're like, "Oh,
wow. It is so
wow."
wow.
Insert
It
Owen Wilson.
is it is so difficult to argue with a liberal or, like to debate with a liberal because they don't exist in reality. They
Well,
don't. They're not
as
like very go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say something Bongino says all the time, like, they don't have morals.
Exactly.
They don't
Exactly.
have principles. That's what he says. They don't have principles.
Right.
We
They don't
are
have code
people.
of conduct.
No, we are like conservatives are people of principles. Our
Right.
policies run on principles.
Yep.
Their policies run on just whatever they're feeling at
Mm,
that moment,
absolutely.
right?
Well, I would say that they run on destruction, really. Like whatever brings the most
Destruction and
destruction. Of course,
chaos.
they don't. That's the hardest part about it is that it's so well disguised,
Yeah.
and they sound so well intentioned. We are a nation of immigrants. It's like, yeah, my mother is an immigrant. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
We all have family who came here.
it frustrates me to no end because it's like it makes us sound makes us sound like horrible to be like questioning the if these people coming across the border are good or bad people.
Mhm.
Like, do you just let anyone off the street into your home?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
do you
and then
have a
also
boundary where you vet who you're letting in before you do?
yeah. Well, and I think that there's been over 100 different like reoffenders who have entered
Uh-huh.
the country and who have been caught, thankfully. But think about how many others have slipped through. And so now we have these terrorists and offenders running amok
Yeah.
in our country. And what also makes me the most nervous is a lot of them are men, young
Mhm.
men from
Mostly men.
these socialist countries, such as
Yeah.
Venezuela. A lot of young men from Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, who are
Wow.
fleeing these socialist countries
Yeah.
who I just and they have nothing they have no purpose, they have nothing to protect or something to build or they probably don't have a family. What are we going to be doing with them here? Like, and then did you see the did I send it to you? I can't remember. I think it was a guy in New York, like a politician in New York saying like, "Who's going to build our houses? Who's going to clean our houses? Build and clean our houses without these people if we don't let them in." Verbatim.
You know what?
Verbatim.
That is again just a straight up lie because when you study how the welfare state affects the
Mm.
economy and the
Yeah.
stability of a nation, you
Yeah.
start to see that you could make people who are very low income earners get all of these benefits from the government, and the amount of money that they're in value and benefit and the money that they actually earn equals the same amount if you were making $40,000 more. So it's like,
Yeah.
imagine a single mother making $29,000 and she gets all these benefits, but then if she
Mhm.
makes $70,000, it's the same amount. So
Yeah.
why would you work that hard
What
if you're just
there's no
getting
incentive.
there's
There's no
no incentive.
yeah, that's a
Lack
thing
of
about
incentive
socialism.
destroys the
Mhm.
sustainability of a nation. It just basically brings your growth to a screeching halt,
Yep.
and that's what allows these people to gain power, and it also
Yeah.
they provide a solution to the problem, and
Mhm.
bringing all these people in is a way for them to make themselves seem super welcoming and, oh, we're a nation of immigrants, like we're a melting pot, come on in. But
Yeah.
meanwhile they're just trying to flood the system, pour more money, pour more spending into the welfare state, have all these
Yep.
people running around committing crime and getting paid, and
Yep.
then it just leads to more destruction. And I mean that, we were talking about this before we recorded, like this is a slow drip. It doesn't happen overnight, and you see this in those countries. In Venezuela, like, you hear people talk about it. Well, oh yeah, we were living. It was great. Certain things started to change, but we didn't notice like too
Mhm.
much. We didn't see the long term, and they're so focused on. I need to pay my bills. Like, where am I going to get gas from? Am I going to get milk and eggs at the grocery store? As the policies start to really affect your life in the immediate, you don't
Yeah.
think about what's happening long term necessarily because you're so focused on just providing for your family every day.
Yeah. And it's the people at the top who push this message. Again, it's white liberals. And there's also a term I love using for them, and it's called socialists.
Love
Have
it.
you heard of this term?
No, love that.
Okay, champagne
Obsessed.
socialists. And it's like these
Clink.
rich people who just want, all the things. They want an open border. They want, um, welfare state, they want just
Regulation, yeah.
regulation, heavy taxes, whatever, it's
Right.
fine for the greater good, etc. But
Exactly.
they also want their mansion, they want their private jet, they want to
Yeah.
be able to go to these private settings that are only for the elite. And it socialism naturally creates a lower class and the elite.
Yep.
That is the
It destroys the
structure
middle class. Yep.
ultimately that they want. And it's like, it really doesn't make sense because I get this a lot. It's like, what do these people really want at the end? And I'm like, well, it's control, but it's confusing in the sense that, like, a lot of these people do rely on, like, they probably have like large companies who need a good economy to thrive, and it's like,
Yeah.
it just it doesn't play out in my mind. Like, for instance, if they really want like this welfare state and like, a large
That's true. That's a good point.
poverty, like class of poverty, we won't really be able to go out and buy
Right. We
movie
can't be
tickets
consumers.
for
Hmm.
$18, or we can't really go to Disneyland every year now, and so it's like,
Yes.
ultimately they're gonna feel the pain of it, but it's like it creates, what I'm trying to say.
Well, yes, I do. And that's a very good question and a very valid point because, but at the same time, I feel like they don't really care about money. Like you see all the companies going woke and losing so much money, and they're like, whatever,
Yeah.
like we're doing a social justice agenda, like we
Mhm.
want equality for all.
Well, it's
So
fake
it doesn't
money.
make sense. But the thing is that if you put into play the, existence of the Agenda 2030 and like the global one new world order, one world agenda, I guess that doesn't really matter because they're not going to necessarily need a consumer state because we'll be so restricted and so controlled that
We'll have like
they can
universal
kind of like
income.
do whatever they want and they're going to have probably a digital currency. Like it won't, you know what I mean? Like the dollar is
Yeah.
worthless anyways. It's going to be worthless for them if it's worthless for us. You know
Yeah.
what I
But
mean? So I feel
again,
like they're just they need the system to end and then
mhm.
who knows really what's going to happen after that point, especially if we're like so in a plebeian like
Well, and then also
proletariat
considering,
state, you know?
yeah, well, yeah, just also considering like America is truly the last beacon of hope. And so,
Yeah.
like, in the history, after this phase has happened in other countries, as people begin to flee to the United States of America. And so it really just leaves me questioning, like, okay, once we've ran, we've gone off all the fat of capitalism that we're currently
Right.
living
Run
off
out
of
all
right
our
now.
resources.
Yeah. And then we become like a Venezuelan state, like, it's terrifying to think about, but at the same time, like, a part of me doesn't really believe it's gonna happen. So I don't know. We're living
I
through
know.
a
I
really fun
totally
time,
agree.
guys.
What a time to be alive.
Like, we have no idea what the next 10 years is gonna be. Like, are we gonna be in just like a full tyrannical, like, USSR, like gulag, like cutesy cutesy? Or
We'll be like, what outfit are you wearing to the gulag? Outfit of
yeah.
the day.
Or,
Oh my
like, are
gosh.
we gonna, like, crash the financial system, get off this freaking credit system, and go back to the gold standard, and then everything be holly lolly jolly? Hopefully, George Soros is 6 feet under,
Oh
alongside
god, oh my
Kraus
gosh.
Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates. That's what I would like to see. Oh, and Hillary Clinton.
And
And
Yuval
Fauci.
Harari.
We're just, like, making our kill list. Casual. Just
I know. I
kidding.
ask God every day to take away these horrible feelings from my heart.
Oh, you know what?
But
David
you know
prayed
what?
that same prayer, so we're fine.
So we're good. And
We're
that's,
good.
when you're evil to your core, God brings down the wrath of fury. So,
Mm, that is
you know
true.
what I'm
And you know
saying?
what? David casually was just like, God, break the jaws of my enemies, make their teeth fall out. And then the next sentence is like,
Turn them
you,
to
Lord,
dust.
are good.
I love you
I
so much, Lord.
I am so
You're
obsessed with
so
some of
good to
his
me.
prayers.
Oh my god, I'm crying.
I know.
Oh,
I'm obsessed with his
gorgeous.
prayers sometimes.
Okay.
Um You, Lord Almighty, will
Oh.
provide for me. Knock the teeth out of my enemy's jaws, please. Thank you. That's what
Thank
we want.
you. Amen.
Yeah. Literally, I pray those prayers too sometimes for total destruction. But you know what? He also says that their foot will slip and their devastation will come upon them. So
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Okay. That's another thing that we have to
Cozy.
continue to remember as, believers, is that God has the revenge. Like, we
Yeah.
don't actually have to make that kill list, okay? We actually don't have to go and seek out revenge. Of course, there's this anger righteousness, or righteous anger, sorry. Righteous anger that I think is totally good to feel, that we want things to be just and orderly, and we
Yeah.
can have that anger against those who want to inflict this chaos on us. And I think that the message of Jesus gets really like convoluted and like messy with a lot of people, because a lot of people will assume like he was this really nice, accepting person, but actually he literally talked about like his words being like swords, and like
Hmm.
they will cut deeply into your soul. And I'm like, that nothing about that's real nice.
Yeah.
Like, just letting you know. So
Well,
you
because
will
that's the
be.
thing. It's like being a proponent of truth and goodness and reality is
Mhm,
not easy, and you are confronted with people who relieve themselves of that moral structure. So,
mhm,
there has to be repercussion for that. And it doesn't mean
mhm.
that we take it upon ourselves and we go out and create this kill list. It
No.
means that, and I also think about like how when you read Genesis, it's like there was never supposed to be evil in this world. Like God
Mhm.
created such a beautiful world. And I've been really trying to come from that mindset a lot more. Whereas, like, I look at the world and I'm like, it's so beautiful. Like, there's
Mhm.
no way that we were not created to appreciate the beauty and the goodness that is this world. And
Yeah.
freedom is given to those who are willing to stand up for it.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
if you are evil and you have no code of conduct and you are just feeding off of your own addiction to darkness, that's not something that can be taken lightly. And so
Mhm.
I do agree that, sometimes words need to be cutting, but at
Right.
the end of the day, God is the ultimate judge. And I think it's so potent because I was talking about this earlier, is that um the realization that you've done something wrong is so
Mm.
much stronger than someone punishing you for doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like that realization where it's like, oh, wow. Like whether it's,
Mhm.
it can come in different forms. And I'm not saying it's like, oh, we all have struggles with like the feeling of guilt or shame or whatever these feelings are. But it's like when you think like, whoa, like I really screwed up there. You know what I mean? If you have
Yeah.
that realization, like that point, that moment is so much deeper and cutting than,
Yeah.
anybody taking actions their own hands and punishing people for evil. I mean, of course, whatever. I'm kind of
Kinda
going on
reminds
a
me of. Yeah,
rant
it
here.
kinda reminds me of, like, when you get in trouble, and, like, some kids are deeply affected by knowing, like, they've disappointed their parents, and, like, that's enough for them. They don't really need that punishment. It's that kinda same thought. I don't know, it just
Yeah,
reminded me of
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
Um
analogy.
And also, maybe we wrap up with this one last
Yeah.
article that we
Yeah.
found, and it's quite heartbreaking. It kind of goes along with this narrative that, that like we do live in like a fallen world, and
Mm.
the devastating effects of these, socialist policies do make it seem just like really daunting and heavy. And this article by Blaze came out with this research study from Columbia University, saying that liberal youth are far more depressed than their conservative
Mm.
counterparts, especially the girls.
Mhm.
And it just simply says conservatives are generally happier than their leftist counterparts, not by a little, but a significant measure. Um, and it continues down, and it says here, it defines conservatism in the study as the support of individual liberty, right-wing social and religious values, and unregulated free markets. And liberalism was defined as support of equal opportunity, free but semi-regulated markets, civil liberties, and social justice. Um, and I'm trying to find the if it shows. There's no percentages. It's interesting.
You know what's
Anyway,
crazy?
yeah, go ahead.
It's crazy because the healthcare industry is such a huge portion of our GDP, that what goes into like creating revenue for the country and our GDP,
Mhm.
it's like 18%. So when you
Wow.
yeah, so when you take into account like how the healthcare industry plays into our economics
Mm,
of what like, you know, affects the wheels of the economy of a nation, it's like they need people to stay sick because they make
yeah.
so much money off of it. Illness
Well,
is profitable. Mental
yeah,
illness is profitable.
100%. And then, I mean, this is a conversation for another time, but the trans movement, and then also considering how many chemicals and like toxins are around us all day long, and it's making
Mhm.
us infertile. And so the fertility
Yep.
industry is now a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
I think they're projected to be the industry is supposed to be, considered to be like a $27 billion industry just for fertility help. And I'm like, they've made that up. Like they've made an entire industry to fill this need
to
that they've
help
created.
women to help women
Yeah.
do what they are naturally created to do,
But then
because they
they've
have taken the ability away from us by poisoning
exactly.
us and
And then
destroying the evolution of our bodies to be
yeah,
strong enough to give birth naturally. It's
and and then going back to the trans, they're creating all these young people who will need to be on their medications for their entire lives,
yep.
creating lifetime customers. Well, mic drop.
Boom. Yeah.
And then
It's
I mean, it
crazy,
also plays in with the fertility thing too. Like it's going to be, they want it to be like a luxury to be able to basically procreate.
We've talked about this. Oh my god, just smacked myself in the eyeball. we've,
You
ah,
good?
we've talked about this, that, young people need a purpose. They need answers. And this is the
Mhm.
perfect answer for them. It's easy. You go into a doctor's office, they tell you what's wrong with you, tell you to take these pills for the rest of your
Mhm.
life. You'll be happy, you'll be great. And what have the studies shown is that kids and teenagers, and now little children who are starting on puberty blockers and taking hormones and taking these, and literally going under the knife to get rid of their own body parts, it is always coupled with depression, anxiety, thoughts of suicide, all of these things, because
Mhm.
you're taking your own identity away from yourself. It's
Yeah.
really not rocket science.
Mm-mm.
And it's so sad. And like you said, they're creating lifetime customers. That's what they need. That's what they need, because
Yeah.
it is so profitable to them. And
Mhm.
even, I mean, you talk about it all the time, like even something as simple as like C-sections, like they make more money off a C-section than natural birth. They make,
Yep.
I've heard people talking University of Nash, or I think it was like Nashville or something in Tennessee, where she's like, we make, way more money from top surgeries than bottom surgeries, or vice versa, whatever it was. So,
Oh,
we got to
that's
like push
awful.
that. Oh my gosh. No, they are so flagrant and blatant about what their agenda is and what their goals are. This is not about helping people. This is not about
No.
solving problems of helping people feel like, now they're in the right body because they think that they're a boy or a girl. Like, this is child abuse. It's hard for me to even like believe that we are living in a society now where this is happening. I mean, it's
Mhm.
it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank
Well,
God.
thank you so much for joining us today and listening in on our thoughts and debriefing the
Yes.
town hall. We talked about the border and we talked about just the depressing society, a little bit of our faith and mental illnesses.
Yeah. There's a
So
lot
we were
going
all
on,
over the
but
board today.
yeah.
Um,
But always remember that, everybody goes, I mean, even in your personal life, you go through challenges, and civilizations go through challenges. This is totally normal. We are like a blip on the timeline, and we
mhm.
have the unique ability uh, um, to literally change where our world goes. This is
Yeah.
global. This is a great awakening. People are now more exposed to the truth than they've ever been before. So we really do have everything at our fingertips, and it'd be a darn shame if more people don't wake up. So if this is like, even if one person sees this and they're like, it makes them question or makes them like, oh, like rethink what their beliefs are, what their opinions are about things, then that's worth it. That's
Yeah.
worth it because we have to save our country. We have to
Yeah.
protect our freedom.
Yep. 100%.
Well, thanks so
Well,
much for watching
yeah,
or
thanks,
listening.
guys. All right.
All right, see
Bye.
you next time.